Hello, hello, and welcome back to the podcast. I am so excited for today's episode because I know that today's topic is going to really be something that you guys are interested in. I, as a business coach, get asked all the time, how do I improve my copy? And for those of you who are new to entrepreneurship, copy is the writing, the text, the messaging that your brand uses to get the word out about your amazing products and offers. And so today I'm excited because joining me on the podcast is my new friend, Crunch Ranjani. Let me make sure I said it right. And she is the founder and chief content creator for her company. I'm going to definitely let her introduce herself, but let's just bring her into the podcast. Hi.
Hi, so excited to be here.
I am so excited to have you because I have a marketing side of my business, and not a lot of people know that. And we offer marketing services, but the one thing we don't offer is copy, because I say you got to be an expert in that, and you have to really have a passion for the words and for the messaging. So I'm excited to have someone like you, a copy expert, in the house to talk to us more about that. But before we get into all of that, let me give you a chance to introduce yourself. So tell the folks a little bit more about you and who do you serve?
So my name is Crunch, and I help purpose-driven professionals, entrepreneurs, change makers feel lighter in their business by simplifying their copy and content so that they can amplify their impact. And I know a lot of great, cool business owners who are doing amazing things in the world, and they're just not able to share the message about what they're doing and why it's so important and how they're helping people out in the world, because whatever they're doing it and not telling people about it, or not telling people in the right way about it, so people just don't know. So what I'm helping to do is to uplift their messaging and to uplift their voice in the world so that more people have access to them and can be served by the amazing things that they're doing in the world. So that's a little bit about what I do and who I serve.
Awesome. So we're going to dive right into the world of copy here. So I know a lot of our listeners are really, really, really new to entrepreneurship. And so just the word copy is probably throwing them off. But can you kind of explain what is copy, like just in the easiest terms?
Copy is basically just all of the words that you use to communicate and connect with your dream clients, right? So whether that's things like ads, that's things like the website, like the words on your website, the sales page, the words on your sales page, even things like your social media captions, the captions that go on your YouTube descriptions, or, like whether you're writing an article or a blog post, the emails that you send, all of this comes under the very huge umbrella of copy. So something as a new business owner you might not know is that different copywriters specialize in different things. So you might go to like a copywriter and like, oh, can you write an Facebook ad for me? And they'll be like, no, sorry, I don't do that. I only do emails. And that's a very common thing because like copywriters have different areas of expertise and different people specialize in different things because depending on the channel in which you're communicating with your audience, the words that you use to like trigger that action that you want them to take are different, right? So when you are writing a blog post, for example, you might focus more on giving a lot of value, sharing a lot of information, telling a story. And then at the end of all of that, you would have like a small call to action. You have a lot more words to like capture the person's interest, bring them into your world, draw them in, and then you tell them like, oh, if all of this resonates with you and you want a piece of this action, contact me, right? Or download the freebie or do this thing, right? But in a Facebook ad, for example, you have like 20 words for somebody to like click on that ad, because like that's literally like all the space that you have. You can't write more than that. You can't tell like your whole life story about like your mission, your vision, your purpose, how you got into your business, how you're helping people. You got to like catch that person's attention and make them like think, oh, that's really interesting. I'm going to click on that. Right. So like the talents and the skills required to write for different pieces of copy is completely different. So don't be, I guess, like maybe if you're looking for a copywriter to work with, you might want to ask them, what kind of copy do you specialize in? Or like, depending on what your needs are, you might search for a specific copywriter to help you with that. So that's, a little bit about copy, because a lot of people get confused about it. Like, why can't you write like all of my words for me? It's like, it just takes a lot of effort and like skill and training to become really good at doing this one thing. So
Yeah, I love what you say because I never really thought of it that way. I've had to hire different types of copywriters, but I'm always project driven. So in my head, I'm like, okay, I'm making an ad. I need to find somebody who can write my ad. And so I'm just looking up like Facebook ad copyright. And I never even thought like, oh, they probably don't do other stuff because I wasn't worried about the other stuff. But you're right. They do have to specialize in that because I'm like, okay, I want somebody to write my emails. I want somebody to do this or write a blog post or what have you. Right now, I actually have somebody working with me on writing a book. So just very different specialties. And you're right, because some is like long form versus short form. And when we think of other projects, we definitely think, okay, some people specialize in like short form video editing and long form video editing, that type of stuff. But we don't think about that when it comes to words, probably because we're not the person having to write them. So yeah, it's like, oh, well, if they're words, they're words, but no, they're words with a purpose. And so you want to find an expert to do just that. All right, so I want to kind of get before we even get to the copywriting stage because I think most people know if they're a decent writer or not and whether they need to outsource a copywriter. But before you even get to the copywriter, what are some things that an entrepreneur needs to kind of know or have in mind in order for the copywriter to be able to do their magic?
I think there are mainly three things I would say that you need to have really clear in your business or for you to be able to work with a copywriter so that they can do their best work. The first thing is for you to know who you're talking to, right? Who is your dream client? If you don't know who you're talking to, the copywriter can't write the words that will speak to this specific person, because when you're selling whatever you're selling, you don't want to appeal to like all 7 billion people in the world. Like your product or service is not for 7 billion people. It's for, I don't know, 1 million people or like 1 billion people. I don't know, like Facebook's for a lot of people, but you have to speak to them in a way that they resonate with. So being really clear on who you're serving and how like you help them, um, is really important for you to be able to communicate with your copywriter. Like, oh, I help people who have this specific problem and, this is how I help them. So that's the second half of that's the second part of the thing that you need to be really clear on. Like, how do you help them? Because if you're not able to tell your copywriter, like, this is the transformation that I provide. This is how I take people from point A, where they're suffering, to point B, where they're delighted. They can't help you, communicate that with your dream clients. So that's the second thing that you want to be really clear on. And the third thing I think that people often forget is that you want to be clear on your own voice and your own tone and your own style, right? Because I'm sure you've read people's website and you're like, I have no idea who this person is, right? And you're just like, I have no concept of what they're like as a person. I have no concept of like their values, their dreams, their aspirations, their, like their motivations. And therefore, I don't feel this connection, because who we really connect with are people that we know, like, and trust. And how you do that is by showcasing your personality. So don't be afraid to say like, oh, I speak with a very strong Southern accent, please bring that across in my copy. Or I use a lot of expletives, please use those in my copy. Because we want to capture your personality, because that's who like your audience is looking for. They're looking for you. They're not looking for like you that's watered down and bland and looks like everybody else and sounds like everybody else. They're looking for you as you are, your fullest self. So don't be afraid to like share that with your copywriter, because it makes our job so much easier. When we have like a strong voice to work from, it's like the copy flows.
I love that. Yeah, we need to make it easier on everybody who works with us. And I think having a clear voice and personality to showcase, and it really will help you kind of get all of your messaging out. So I love that you kind of talked about showing up authentically, because one of the things that kind of just makes me sigh, I'm like, oh, is when I come across that like say for instance, I'm looking for a coaching program or I'm looking for a course of some sort for, to solve a problem. I will see the same types of posts or the same types of wording for that industry. And it's like, it's usually, I'm sure you've seen it, where like, say for instance, video content, because I like a lot of video content. It'll be the guy and he's always like shouting at the camera and he's like telling you to buy now, act now, you know what I mean? And then the next video will be another guy talking about act now, buy now. And it's like, oh, that's annoying. Like, is that really his personality? Are all men just yelling at cameras? And I feel like that comes across in copy too, where it's like the same thing being said over and over and over and over and over again. So what is a tip you can give us? Because I want to stay in that bubble of like authenticity. Like, how do we differentiate ourselves in our words from like the next person?
I think our personality comes across quite clearly when we're speaking to other people. So I think that's like a tip that I like to give business owners who are like, I don't know what my voice is, or like, I'm just going to copy what this other successful person's saying and use it on my website because if it works for them, it's going to work for me. That's not true. What you want to do is, I think, find your voice. And that can feel a little bit challenging or, stressful to some people. So I recommend, like, if you can find a friend or just a friend to talk to about what you do and why you do it and who you do it for, and use that as the basis for your copy. Because I think when we're talking to each other, like, that's really like how we show up in the world, right? Like, you're not editing yourself, you're not like, you can't go back and like backspace, delete. Right. So like the words that come out of your mouth are really like your true authentic voice. So my recommendation or like my suggestion is maybe set up a time to chat with a friend, record that conversation, and then you can use that as a transcript, like grab a transcript of that conversation. And then you can say like, oh, these are the phrases that I say. This is how I speak. And you can use that. Like, obviously you can polish it up and like remove all the ums and ers and, the things that come across in our speech where it doesn't really translate into like text, but you get a sense of how you sound and use that as a basis for to write your copy, because then it really sounds like you, and it showcases your personality, your unique identities, and that really comes across. And then you won't be like every other bro marketer who's like, buy now, act now, this offer expires in 27 seconds,
Mm-hmm. It's every time I'm like, woo, every time I pull up Instagram, it just keeps popping up. I'm like, oh my goodness. Like, why are you yelling at me? But no, I love everything you said. And actually going back to the fact, like I said, I'm in the process of working on a book with someone who does like copywriting for authors who are not into writing books because I'm not a super strong writer. But yeah, one thing we did was we had lots of conversations, and then she asked me to record myself telling stories so that when she wrote, it would sound like me. And I think that's great because I want people to connect with me, because if they connect with my book and they connect with my emails and they connect with my copy that's in my social media, then when they get to me, right, to work and do business, they're like, okay, I know her. I don't want it to be like a disconnect. So I love the idea of talk to a friend, record yourself, and then give that to the copywriter so they really can understand like your inflections, your personality, all those things. So I think that's really a great tip. Now I'm going to get real for a second because we are in the age of Chat GPT. Dun, dun, dun. Like, I need theme music for that. And somebody's sitting here like, I'm just going to use good old Chat GPT to write all my content. Now, I've played in Chat GPT, and as you hear, I still hired a copywriter because while Chat GPT is a lovely resource, I'm not going to say don't use it. There is a big difference. There is a big divide between the quality that a person who is an expert in copywriting does versus AI. So can we talk just for a second? I just want to get real. What is your thoughts around Chat GPT? Do you think it's going to eradicate copywriters, or can you tell us why we should be really working with a skilled copywriter?
I don't think that Chat GPT is going to replace copywriters in its current form, right? I don't know like what the future holds and whether like they're going to update the technology and make it so incredible that you never have to work with a copywriter. But I think a skilled copywriter can offer you something beyond ChatGPT, because ChatGPT gives you what you give it, right? Like the output that you get out of ChatGPT depends on what you put into it, right? So if you put in like questions or whatever, it gives you answers. But a copywriter goes beyond that. They are getting things out of you that you maybe didn't even know you had within you, right? So the copywriters that you work with are likely, well, if you choose the right copywriters, they'll be able to ask you the right questions. They'll be able to like guide you to tell the right stories. They'll be able to, use their experience in working with hundreds or thousands of other business owners and tell you like, okay, this particular thing works for your industry and this particular thing doesn't work for your industry. Whereas ChatGPT doesn't make those judgments, right? Like it's a bot, it's a tool, it is useful. And I think, I'm going to share like a tip on how you can actually get ChatGPT to work a little bit better for you. But ultimately, I think like when you have that human interaction with a copywriter, they will be able to elevate your message and, share. They'll be able to get more out of you than you could even think possible. Like I've worked with clients and after working with me, they're just like, oh my goodness, I didn't even know that this was a story that I needed to tell my audience for them to want to work with me. I didn't even know like this is the way that I should say something so that it inspires people to reach out to me and connect with me. So that's something that ChatGPT can't give you. But one big tip, I know a lot of business owners who are just starting out, or like entrepreneurs who are in the early phases of their business, you don't have a lot of budget and you want to, hiring a copywriter can get expensive really quickly and is an investment that is kind of like at a higher level, depending on who you work with. But ChatGPT can be a tool that you kind of manipulate into doing what you want it to do. And something that I found to be quite helpful or quite useful in doing is, this is a big secret tip that I've never shared with anybody else. So you heard it here first.
Exclusive.
It's the exclusive. So what I've done is there's copy that I've written for myself. So like, for example, if I want to create Instagram captions and I tell it, can you write a caption for me about content repurposing, right? Which is something I talk about quite often. And then it can come up with a fairly generic piece of content. But to get ChatGPT to write in my voice, what I've done is I've taken captions that I've written in my own voice, and I think like this is brilliant. This is like a perfect example of Crunch's voice and how she shows up in the world. And I put that into ChatGPT, telling ChatGPT like, hey, this is an example of my copy and my voice and my audience is such and such. Here is the example. Can you create a caption about content repurposing based on this example? And then it comes up with something that's a lot closer to my voice. And obviously I have to go in and tweak it and like change a few things, but it's a much more workable product. It's not just something that's generic. I can actually like imagine myself saying some of these things, so that's like a helpful way to kind of guide ChatGPT into the direction that you want it to go. Because like some people speak in a really like professional way. Some people speak in a very casual way. Some people use a lot of like idiomatic expressions, which is, I don't know, like funny expressions that other people wouldn't say. And ChatGPT doesn't know all of this unless you tell it, like, this is an example. This is the baseline, And then from there, it can kind of like, okay, I know, like based on these language structures, I'm going to come up with something similar to that. You can also like input your website, ding, 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 into ChatGPT and say like, based on the website, and then you add in the link, create content ideas for this website, and then it kind of like goes through the website and tells you like, I think this website is about copywriting and content creation, and here are some topics that your audience might be interested in. And then it comes up with like 10 topics. So I think like the trick with ChatGPT is to give it a baseline and to give it like some text to work with, whether that's in the form of a website or like copy and pasted text that you've used before that you like. And then it comes up with much better responses than if you just told it like, write me a piece of content about whatever. Then it becomes very generic, So
Well, you heard it here first, guys. But no, I do something similar with my clients. But I want to come back to the fact that you talked about the investment, and I want this to be an acknowledged theme throughout the podcast. There's always going to be more than one way to get to your finished product, but I think you have to remember that you get what you pay for. And so, yes, you can get ChatGPT for free. You can also upgrade. I'm one of those upgraded members on ChatGPT. But you're only going to get, like she says, what you put into it, and you're still going to have to tweak it. So when it comes to investment, you are really, when you invest more, you are investing in this specialty, the skill set, and you're also paying to get back your time. When I work with copywriters, the coolest thing is they usually have a system in place to get my result, right? I hire them because I know the result's going to be great. They have a proven track record. ChatGPT just promises you're going to get some text that kind of work with what you're talking about. But the copywriter knows if they're an ad specialist, their goal is to get me a converting ad using the copy. If it's for social media, their job is to get you to do the call to action. And that is part of their branding, and their system is going to be set up in a way that they're going to be able to pull what they need out of me. They're going to have a time frame to get it back to me, and it's done. I don't have to go back and do a whole bunch of tweaks. All right. And so I'm investing in getting my time back, my peace of mind, and the expertise, the years of experience, the human know-how, that emotional touch and connection. That is what you're investing in. So I don't want you guys to think that we're saying like this will be the solution for you. Like, oh yeah, you can just use this AI. It's a great tool, but you have to decide as you build up your business what tools you're going to want to invest in, because I'm telling you, you could also sit and just write words out and figure it out in your own. But again, you're going to have to do more trial and error. It's going to take more time. So you just have to decide what you're willing to invest in. And I do want to explain, because I have worked with copywriters and I have been a Chat GPT fan, and I have also tried to do it myself. There is a difference. There is a difference.
And I think the other thing is, you might want to look out for, because there are platforms like Fiverr and Upwork where you can get work done for fairly low prices, right? But at what cost, right? So like it costs you $50 to get someone on Fiverr to write your website copy. But how much are you losing in sales because the copy doesn't resonate with like your audience, or it doesn't work for the things that you're selling, or it doesn't properly capture your like brilliance, right? How much are you losing? So if you're charging like $1,000 for a client to come and work with you, and you paid $50 to this copywriter to write your sales page, and $1,000 client comes to your website like, oh, this doesn't quite talk to me, I don't really like it, and they click out, you've just lost $1,000. You haven't saved $50. It's like a cost and benefit analysis. And I guess at each stage of your business, you're going to have to consider like, what is the investment that you're willing to make, and how much return are you going to get out of it, right? So that's, I think, a personal decision. And of course, like different people are at different levels of risk, right? Like, because it is a risk. You could hire a copywriter for $3,000 and the work that they deliver just doesn't resonate with you, or it doesn't like work for you, because it's also about like finding the fit, right? Like, I'm a great copywriter, but I'm not for everybody. Like, not everybody's going to love my work, and that's fine. That's perfectly great because I don't want to work with everybody, so you're going to find like, and it does take a little bit of like time and experience, like trial and error to find the right person to work with. And then once you do, it's like, this is a dream. And then you're like, this is what people have been talking about. This is what people are raving about.
Yeah. I love that you said that ROI, like what is the return on investment? And we have to, again, stop thinking if we're buying things and start thinking about what we're investing in. Because if you have the right people on your team doing the things they're experts in, you're going to see your business is going to grow and scale quite faster. And you're going to see a very quick, very, very drastic change, because you're going to be able to really attract and land the clients you really want to work with at the price point you want to work with them at. But kind of going back to, because I know, look, I was like, we got all these things to talk about. I know we're running out of time here, but I do want, because now people are like, okay, I get it. I want to hire a copywriter, but they don't know how. And I've done the Fiverr, I've done the Upwork, I've done just throwing it out on social media, all the stuff. So what are a couple of things we as entrepreneurs need to maybe questions we need to ask, or things we need to look for when it goes to trying to find our dream copywriter to work with?
Ooh, that's an interesting question. What are questions you need to ask your copywriter before you hire them?
Yes.
I would say, ask for the receipts, right? Can you show me like your portfolio? Can you share with me examples of the work that you've done? Because when you see the examples of content or copy that they've written, then you can judge whether like that's something that could work with your brand. And it might not be like that it works or that it is exactly like within your industry or your field. It might be like you're looking at copy for somebody completely out of your industry or your field, right? But you can see like, oh, okay, this copywriter writes in this style, or this is the kind of strategy that they use in the copy. And just asking for examples of their work is a good place to start, just to see like whether you resonate with the stuff that they've already created. Beyond that, I would also like check that you are a match in terms of your values, right? Because that I feel is a very important part of being able to use the same kind of language or the same kind of communication in order to reach your dream clients. And if the values are not a match, like I'm never going to hire like a bro marketer who's like, buy this now in the next 27 seconds or you'll never see it again, because that's not my style of communication. I would never hire someone who does that in their copy, right? So I think having those values in alignment is a good place to also, have as a baseline when you are hiring a copywriter. Um, and honestly, like it can be quite a process. I would ask for referrals from people in your network that you know and trust, that like have similar businesses or have, similar audiences, and ask about the copywriter that they worked with for that and how they felt in their experience working with that particular copywriter, like whether they took their issues into consideration or like their concerns, talked about like what they want to achieve and that kind of stuff. So I think getting a referral is a great place to find a copywriter. But honestly, like sometimes you just gotta try different copywriters. And I would also ask like if they offer like a trial project, if you're working with them on a like longer term basis, or like what their refund policy is, or like what their turnaround time is, and what the deliverables are, and just to get like really clear about what you're getting for your project, and to have that kind of set out in writing before you get started. But yeah.
I love it. Look, get those contracts together, y'all. But no, I think just kind of piggybacking off of what you said, because I hire a lot of freelancers. That was the way I was able to scale up my business. You really have to put together people that you can build rapport with and relationships with. I do a lot of talking with people before I hire them and bring them on. And then we do a trial run. So I'll say, okay, well, we'll put you on this project for 30 days. And then, we'll keep going. And then at 90 days, we'll kind of check back in. And if we both like it, then we'll do these longer term things, because you do have to kind of gel. You want somebody who believes in your projects, who supports you, who understands what you're trying to do, understands your messaging, just when it comes to any freelancer you may work with or any employees you bring on. Because if they have buy-in into what you're doing, they're going to give you better work. If they're just like, whatever, and they're not taking it seriously, and they don't really understand what you're doing, it's just not going to work. But you got to kind of try it out, see if it's going to work. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But at least you're going to move closer to your goal. And when you do find those right people, like you said, like those are your ride or dies. I've had some of the same freelancers for like 2 years. I go back to them time and time again. And now I even have them working for some of my clients because they're just absolutely amazing. So I love that you said referrals and things of that nature. So look, we are wrapping up, guys. This went so fast. I definitely want to thank our guests for being here. But before we go, I always like to give our guests a chance to give us any last thoughts, but also to let us know how we can connect with you, because now they know you're an amazing person. They like you and they want to know how they can work with you. So give us your last thoughts and also let us know how we can connect with you in the future.
Last thoughts. I think something that a lot of business owners kind of struggle with is not showing up because they don't know how to show up. And sometimes I think like you just gotta start, just put something out there. If like you're not convinced that it's like the best copy in the world, but sometimes something is better than nothing. And you just got to like go for it, and you can always tweak it along the way. Like it doesn't have to be perfect on the first try, but just start with something, like don't wait for like 3 months down the road when like all of your sales pages are perfect and all of the content is wonderful and you have captions for social media for the next 3 years or whatever. Like don't keep waiting. Just like put yourself out there, because people are eager and ready to work with you now, where you're at now, whatever service you're offering or product that you're selling right now. They want it now. Like don't stand in the way of your own success, right? Like just
Yes, right
put
now,
yourself
buy
out there.
now.
Like just write something, put it out there, and then like when you have the funds or like when you're ready to work with a copywriter, you can improve on that, and that will like elevate your business to the next level. But you got to start somewhere, so don't like say like, oh no, I don't have the right words yet, I'm just going to wait until I can think of the right words. Start with something, and then you can improve it along the way as you get to know your audience better, or as you get to know your dream clients better. You can speak more to them, and then you can like update your copy, and it's fine. Like nothing on the internet lasts forever. Right?
Yes, you can always go back and edit it. I love that.
Exactly. And I would love to connect with all of you. I'm hanging out on LinkedIn and Instagram these days. You can also like jump over on my website where I have some free resources for business owners. I have some content ideas up there. You can also like schedule an Ask Me Anything chat. And if you want to work with me, like send me a DM, send me a message, send me an email, whatever it is, like whatever your preferred mode of communication is. Let me know, we'll chat, and we'll see if we're a good fit to work together. And I would be so happy to help support you in your business going forward.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here. This was a great conversation. I think for anyone that's considering hiring a copywriter or trying to better understand what copy is, I think that this will hopefully give them a lot more clarity on their next steps. So, for those of you who are tuning in, thank you so much for listening to this episode of the podcast. If you enjoyed it, please do listen to any of our previous episodes. And remember, we drop a new episode each and every week. But until next time, guys, remember, I rock, you rock, we all rock, and we'll see you next time.